Shaw.
Yes. Motion passed. Next, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the work session held on August 19th, 2013.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Craig, second by Mrs. Craig. On the question, corrections, clarifications, or additions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. This evening, we're going to deviate a little bit from our traditional agenda. We have a presentation from Municipal Recovery. You have the floor.
Hi, thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to speak. My name is Dave Solomon. I'm with Municipal Recovery Recycling in Solomon. We provide your recycling services for the borough. We recently installed a single stream recycling center. That's something that's the borough's interested in option to the borough. The reason I was here this evening is a couple of years ago we installed a document destruction, a paper shredder. This day of age, we're all aware of identity theft. And the reason we put the shredder in was to market to local companies. But there's also that need out there for residents and people, for instance, at 44, residents at 44. We recently did a document shredding day for residents of Wilkes-Barre and got a lot of positive feedback. And I was here this evening just to offer the opportunity to put forth a document destruction day for residents of 44. A lot of people don't know what to do with their bills, their private information. And I'm here to put forward that opportunity to present that to the council.
So how would that work? Would the residents go to your location? Would you bring the...
Yeah, the residents would come to our location on Saturday morning, 2 to 4 hours.
Okay.
And they could witness their paper be shredded.
Okay.
Pretty simple, straightforward.
And where's your location again?
495 Stanton Street.
So is that an additional charge or?
No, it'd be free to the residents. Businesses we charge for, but for 2 to 4 hours on a Saturday morning, it would be a free community service.
Okay.
Do you have any particular date in mind?
No. Usually it would take a press release or something, maybe a couple weeks ahead of time, or some sort of advertising, something to get the word out to the residents.
Well, why don't we, I'll make a motion then to authorize the borough manager to coordinate with Mr. Solomon to come up with a date that works for you, and then to put together a press release, to the residents of the town.
I'll second it.
Motion and second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Solomon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, communications?
Received a letter from Donnie Martin, 1114 Murray Street. Dear Ms. Fairchild, I'm writing to request that the Borough Council consider changing the address of property located to the rear of mine, which is currently known as rear 1114 Murray Street, 44 PA. This property does not face Murray Street, it faces Tripp Street. I have had problems with the United States Postal Service for several years regarding delivery of my mail because of the Postal Service is not aware of property to the rear of mine. Postal carriers often leave mail in my box for the person residing at that property. I have seen the person residing at that property urinating in the street and have been threatened by him. Therefore, I will not deliver my mail to him. There have also been several occasions where collection agencies have called me for looking for the person who lives at rear 1114 Murray Street. They search the address on the internet, and because there is no telephone for rear 1114 Murray Street, they call me. I believe that since this property is not on Murray Street, but rather on Tripp, and because of the confusion with both the Postal Service and collection agencies, it would be in everyone's best address to change the address of this property to Tripp Street address. Thank you for your anticipated cooperation in this matter. Just let everybody know that I did contact the Postal Service and I tried to reach 911 because we would have to have a request made to do such with 911. And the Postal Service has stated that they really don't like to have the rear addresses, but many years ago that's what they did, and they had to modify it. It's up to council to see.
But, I mean, what does it take, like an act of council to have 911 changes and then that postal service change it?
you would have to request 911, change that address to Tripp Street.
And we
If
have to
that's appropriate
request
with
the-
911, they would allow for that. If they don't, it has to be.
Now, what about the postal service?
Postal service will follow whatever 911 tells them.
Oh, okay, okay. All right, well then, I mean,
Where do we start?
I contacted the Rowan and they got my perfection.
okay, but,
No, he's 911.
so, should we make a motion and authorizing you to,
That's what you want to do?
I'll make the motion and authorize the borough manager to coordinate with the county EMA and the postal service to change the address of, what is it, rear
1114 Murray Street.
1114 Murray Street to a Tripp Street number. To a Tripp Street address. Is that the appropriate way to state that?
Yes.
Yeah, after the investigation by the appropriate person gets back to him from 911, then I think council has to address it.
Well, that's what, you know, I'm making the motion to give our borough manager the authority to do what's necessary.
Because it's not gonna be as easy as just sticking it into Tripp Street, because we're probably already in order.
Well, this is the last one on the street,
Yeah.
so there's nowhere else to go except railroad tracks, so it's not a problem like adding in a higher number.
911 would have a specific address, like you just said, they would have to create.
Yeah, they have to create the number, right. But, I mean, as long as this motion passes, then we give you the authority to do that.
I'll second Ron's motion.
Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Communications.
Yes.
The record reflect that you showed us, right?
There she is.
You didn't think this was out of here. Maybe a porch.
First time in this place, we have to get some people, something fine already. So just one for the union. What? Because and somebody complained like 1.5 years ago.
Okay, I emailed everyone the PSA Fall Leadership Conference information, October 18th through the 20th.
So that's when we have to.
If anyone's interested, let me know to register. We also received a letter to 44 Council, attention Barbara Fairchild. We are residents 61 to 63 Bedford Street for the past 40 years. Our garage is on Mack Place, directly behind our house. Mack Place has not been paved in 40 years that we have lived there. There isn't any pavement left on Mack Place from Dunn Street to the middle of it. When it rains, there are puddles for days after causing nesting for mosquitoes. Our garage is full of mud from the cars splashing through the holes. Our garage floor is always full of dirt and mud. It has to be swept daily. Sincerely, Mr. and Mrs. Ramos Brown. When they sent this, I went out with the street department and I had the street department apply some stone. And they called me back and they're very happy that we at least did that. And we got the stone free. Direct Energy sent us a notice that they will be closing the plant at 44. It will involve about 62 employees, and I'm waiting for Berkheimer to let us know how that's going to impact us.
They'll have some kind of ELST tax will be affected.
Or even some EMT.
Some EMT.
And then we received a petition for appeal for the decision of the Board of Assessments of Luzerne County for Al Lispy at 17 Bidlack Street. We would like his taxes that are assessed at $118,700 reduced down to $70,000. And I think Sam is going to be looking into that. We also received an email from Luzerne County Council It is obvious more and more people across Luzerne County are fearful for their safety regardless of the municipality in which they live in. Given that principal reason for government is to protect the people and ensure order, some members of Luzerne County Council, in conjunction with the manager, desire to hold a security summit Wednesday, September 4th from 3:30 to 5 in council chambers. The vision is to address this growing crisis and take action on a united front. Please attend and bring your actionable ideas that can be implemented by our county administrator with zero or low cost, implemented with a short period of time, demonstrated to be proactive and not reactive. Please understand that the purpose of this gathering is not a media event nor is it a socializing opportunity. The purpose is to offer real solutions to stem the growing crime in our area and to increase our ability to fight it. For those community partners outside of county administration, please attend only if you can bring valid suggestions to the table. County hopes to be a catalyst to help combine our area's crime-preventing resources, and obviously any action taken will be non-binding to those attending. Our people are losing hope and many feel that nothing can be done. While government is not the sole solution, we can work together to offer real solutions and take action. Please respond to Brittany by September 3rd at 5, which is passed. And then we also...
the paper, the back was postponed.
I didn't read that. I didn't have a chance to read it. We also received a letter from PennDOT. I'll just summarize it. The bridges that are over 20 feet need to have new bridge weight limit calculation signs put up for what they have now with their new policies. They are willing to work with the local municipalities. Liquid fuels may be used for the purchases and the installation of these new signs, and it's defined in the Pub 9. I placed a call to our municipal services representative to see if there's anything else that we have to do, and the time period that we have to do it in. And then we received late this afternoon a letter from Robert Swabak. Dear Borough Council, I wanted to call attention to continued lapses of enforcement by the current zoning code officer. Last week, a property being worked on by Camus Construction did not have the building permit posted property as stated on the front of the permit. Then last Friday, I spotted a demolition project on the Hinchy property being demolished by Stell Demolition. This project had no posted permit. I have pictures and the site was wide open, endangering the children in the neighborhood as the job site was open over the weekend. Lastly, I noticed our mayor's house, a fence being erected again with no permit posted. As I stated when I met with the investigators last week, it seems certain folks do not have to or want to follow the laws of this town, while certain folks seem to be a constant target of the zoning code office. I hope council can fix this situation before our town gets sued or somebody gets hurt due to the lack of zoning code enforcement. I can just respond briefly. The property that was being worked on with Camus Construction, the people failed to put permit in their window, but were told about it and they put it in immediately. Demolition project at Hinchy, they did have a demolition permit for, and I really don't know anything about the mayor's house having a fence being erected, but I understand that permits were taken.
I'd like to comment too. Mr. Swabak, wherever you're at back there, don't harass my company. I filed for the permit. I paid for the permit. I went through the inspection process. It is not my fault that a permit fell out of the window. If you want to harass me, you are building a masonry fence down 1609 Wyoming Avenue without a zoning permit. And you're going to say I'm doing the wrong thing? I followed proper protocol and procedure and had my inspections. You did not, sir. You should check yourself.
Okay. Any more communications?
That's all.
All right. Residents and taxpayers' comments and petitions regarding agenda items only. Is there anybody here who wishes to address council tonight on the matter on the agenda?
If I could here first, I'm sorry.
Last meeting brought up that today, at this meeting, they were supposed to award the contract. My name is Joe Danowski, 1621 Lang Ave. It was brought up that they were supposed to award the contract for the sewer at this meeting. I don't see that on the agenda, but I did some research as far as Mr. Rehab. And I noticed that last week the engineer had said, as far as lining pipe, well, I don't know if council is under the impression that all this pipe is going to be new in ground. But if they're gonna line pipe, that means that it's not gonna be new, that they're gonna line in the inside of the pipe. Now, I as a plumber have never experienced that. I've called several people and they said that they know basically nothing about it. So I just wonder, does council really know exactly what they're gonna vote on with that? Because I'd like to know, as far as with the engineers, I'd like to actually question them to find out how many projects that they have worked on with this new Mr. Rehab or whatever it is down in Mechanicsburg. Now, myself, I think that all council was under the impression that all pipe was going to be new. Because before the engineer mentioned liner, I was under the impression that all pipe was going to be new. So you might want to rethink that and maybe find out or have a demonstration and find out what the warranty is on this pipe, if it's going to be lined or whatever, because on their website they say, oh, this will last just as long as a new pipe. Well, I'm not so sure about that, especially if there's a tree growing on top, on top of it. So, you might want to rethink all that stuff, and just because maybe it's not, maybe it's the cheapest bid, but maybe they want a couple $100 grand above that is all new pipe. So you might want to rethink that only because the sewers there are clay. And if they go into clay, you know what happened between 16, 19, and they had to put 400 feet of sewer because of the trees. So I think you might want to think about that and have a demonstration or whatever to find out. If I don't know about it, I don't think any of you up there know about it either.
Mr. Janowski,
Yes.
if I could, I'm not a civil engineer, I'm a structural engineer.
Right.
But I've actually seen a lot of very, very promising stuff in trade trade magazines and whatnot about this. That there's significant cost savings associated with this blown-in lining. Basically, the lining comes in inside out, and then it's blown into place, and it kind of like remember those kids' toys that are filled with water, and you can go like this with them. They're like just a constant tube that falls in on itself. You know what I'm talking about? It turns itself right side out as it goes through, and then it's cured with hot air. It's like a thermoset plastic.
Well,
it's incredibly durable, and it is just as good as
what would be the warranty on that?
I can't speak anything
Well,
else about what I've seen from.
This is what I'm saying about before you vote on something that the cost is going to be X amount of dollars. I think that maybe everyone on council might want to look or have a demonstration on this or something on that order, because the people that I talk to, they know nothing about it. I understand that Mr. McLaughlin inquired down at Fleming Valley Sanitary Authority, and to their knowledge, there's none in this area. So is 44 going to be the guinea pig or what?
I can tell you that I had that done to my property 5 years ago.
Yeah.
My sewer was backing up every 3 months. And I also had the clay piping, and they ran the insert through 5 years ago. I haven't had backup since. And it was drain technically back then.
Well, what I'm saying is, you could be a lucky one. It's very possible. But I just want to check out before you award $1 million some dollar bid. That's all. That's the only thing I'm saying. Because I'd like to question the engineers to say, well, how many projects have they been on with something like this? Or, because maybe it was the lowest bid, I don't know. But I put it this way, myself, I think that if you put a new pipe in, that's going to last a lot longer than spraying something inside of one, an old one, mind you.
This stuff, as the councilman said, it actually solidifies a substance that's very similar to PVC piping.
But at that point, are you going to get the same warranty basically as with brand new PVC piping? That's,
Can our engineer comment on that?
huh?
Does our engineer have any comments?
Well, I
on
don't
that?
know. You know what I mean? Like, that I don't know.
Our engineer checked everything with, they prepared the specs, Every contractor that bid on that, bid that accordingly.
Did every contractor bid as far as lining pipe in some areas, or did they bid new pipes in those areas? I'm just questioning that, that's all.
I'd just like to respond
Go ahead.
whenever you're finished.
Go ahead, I'm ready.
They put the bid specs together. Every person who bid on these bid specs followed that criteria to come up with their bid. They ranged from $1.4 million something to over $2 million. They were all bidding on the same identical quantities, amounts, areas, so that was all considered.
It was, as far as lining pipes, because see, if the engineer was here, I would ask him, well, okay, what's the total amount of feet that of pipe that's going to be lined?
That's in the bid specs.
I understand that, but I mean, the engineer should know that. I believe he should, because he's the one who prepared the specs.
That's correct.
Right. So, I mean, like,
They
I just
know
want to
that.
question this stuff, that's all. Because I want to, see, I'm worried about the people of 44. That's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about the people of 44 and their tax dollars and how they're being spent. That's what I'm worried about. And put it this way, as far as, well, Mr. Sharp last meeting said, as far as that he was surprised that that bid was so low. And, we can take that money and we can put it elsewhere. Like, I just want to make sure that the people of 44 are getting their money's worth for what they're paying for. That's all.
There were
Thank
three
you.
there were three bids that were very similar to that amount. Some that were slightly higher. We chose to take the lowest bid by the engineer's recommendation.
Well,
Mark, do we have any guarantee with the engineer's recommendation?
could you possibly tell me?
Yeah, let's compare this. I think that's an important thing. Does the engineer stand behind this contractor?
He wouldn't have made the recommendation if he didn't.
Well, I'd like to get some sort of guarantee for our taxpayers to make sure they don't do this again. I'm just saying. I know you can answer for the engineer because they're not here, but we were hoping.
I read the bid specs. I had the pre-construction
Right.
plans. I was involved.
But whether it's slip lining versus foam lining versus different methods, we just want to make sure that this contractor is reputable, has a good service record, has done jobs completely, has finished the jobs, because there's been instances in this valley where sewer projects have been done, they've had to be redone because they weren't done correctly. I think that's what Mr. Joe and myself are asking about, is to make sure that we spend our money wisely and that the engineer, since they gave the specs, would sit here and recommend and say, yes, we give these stamp for approval.
They have worked with Mr. Rehab, from what I
Okay.
understand, and they have made their recommendation based on their work performance.
Could you possibly tell me, though, why was it put in that they wanted to line pipes instead of putting the ones underground?
You don't understand the bid specs. There is certain sections of the borough that will be slip lined. There are other sections
Yes,
that...
I do understand that, Mrs. Fairchild. I do understand that. But what I'm saying is, why did the engineer, instead of saying, hey, let's put all new pipe in here, and we're gonna put this in the bid, we're gonna put all new pipe underground,
You want to put all new pipe
rather than line?
underground? If you wanted to put all new pipe underground, it would probably cost 4 or 5 times as much as what our estimate was.
Well, what I'm saying is, why did they come up with something like that as far as...
They do this, it's a common practice.
Well, myself, I think new pipe is better than line.
Our recommendation by the engineer was to have the areas slip lined that we could, and the areas that needed to be replaced.
Anybody else? Anybody here wish to address council on an agenda item? Agenda item. Okay.
Rob Swabak, 15 Susquehanna Avenue, in 44. I see on the agenda there is an issue here with delinquent collections for recycling. And it jogged my memory back to August 6, 2012, when the motion was directed the tax collector to reimburse collected 2012 recycling fees from commercial entities be rescinded. My question to the President of Council and the Council was, have we enacted or changed the ordinance so that we can now collect the commercial recycling fees in 44? And are we currently collecting 2013 commercial recycling fees in 44?
Recycling fees are included in everyone's taxes,
Commercial?
including commercial. Delinquent recycling fees, Mr. Jeffries has asked if we would look into whether we want to pursue going to the magistrate or another collector or whatever. That's the reason it's on the agenda.
Okay, but I guess getting back to council is, since we did rescind it in 2012, so you're saying, Barbara, we are currently collecting commercial recycling fees in 44?
Mr. Jeffries, when he collects everybody's taxes, has their recycling fees included.
Okay, so you're saying that it is in there? Okay. All right, fair enough, thank you.
Anybody else wish to address the council on an agenda item?
If we could hear, Joe, there's a Boy Scout here, they wanted to, okay.
Treasury report. I'll entertain a motion to adopt the treasury report of August 31st, 2013 as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Craig. Second by Mrs. Craig. Any question? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. No engineer report tonight. General business. Entertain a motion, Toto, to accept the reports of the American Police Department, Kingston Fire Chief, and Code Enforcement Officer.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Craig. Second by Mrs. Craig. On question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, entertain a motion to adopt resolution number 18 of 2013, authorizing small borrowing for capital purposes under section 8109 of the Local Government Unit Debt Act for the previously approved police vehicle.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Craig.
Second.
Second by Ms. Martinelli. Question. This is for borrowing in the amount of $40,564.23.
1.99%.
1.99% interest rate. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, entertain a motion to adopt ordinance number 5 of 2013, an ordinance of the Borough of 44, amending Borough Code Chapter 15, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Part 4, General Parking Regulations, Section 15-4112, Penalties, prescribing penalties for initial parking violations, and establishing the use of warning letters for the failure of violators to pay the full dollar amount of initial parking fines.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Craig, second by Mrs. Craig. On the question?
This is what the chief had proposed to us?
Yes.
Correct?
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Next, I'll entertain a motion to appoint and contract with BIU as recommended by the Borough Manager as the Borough's third-party building inspectors effective immediately.
Ask the question.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Camus. Second by Ms. Michelli. On the question?
Yeah, I got a question. Will this, and I know we've been using BIU now, so will this essentially just be a continuation of where we are now, that where they will just do the things that our current code enforcement official is not able to do? I mean,
We're
is,
going to do what's
How long is the contract for, or how long is it gonna be?
I think it's,
They're going to do what the proposal said. So,
well, they're,
not their,
there's two areas. Not the temporary,
Right.
correct?
No.
Yeah.
No, it is a temporary, right?
no, we already approved the
We
temporary.
approved the temporary license.
I mean, I really like what they have here, you know, about them, there are no additional costs, no cost for plan review, for reinspection, for attendance at meetings, all of that.
The rates are considerably favorable.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, I'm very happy with their rates. But the question is, we have this full-time code enforcement person, why are we not utilizing him for everything he is able to do?
Well, I think
and
we are.
Using them for,
We are.
We
That would
will.
be in conjunction with his.
Okay, that was our question. He will still issue the permits.
He will issue the permits and he will conduct the inspections that he's permitted to do.
All right.
okay,
Certified to do.
but then is,
The other companies and look at these proposals.
Does that,
well then, I mean, so, just for instance, you know, say, Alan is authorized to do something like residential and electrical and plumbing. I don't know, I'm just using this hypothetical, okay? So for projects where, that, you know, are residential, electrical and plumbing, okay? Does 44, you know, is he gonna handle that whole thing? And then, we keep all of the fees for that?
Can I answer that?
That's one.
That job that I just did on Wyoming Avenue that I had a permit for, Alan did 3 of the inspections. Dave Williams from BIU came down and did the electrical inspection because he is not permitted. They only charge $50.
Right, so, I mean, I think that's kind of the situation that I mean, if this is something that only BIU can do, I mean, I think we want to have, you know, go with their, you know, with their proposal, but if this is something where, you know, we can partially do it and they can partially do it, you know, I think that I would ask the 2 of you to, and that's why I didn't make a motion, because I didn't know what exactly was on the table. But I'm asking you to amend your motion to include, you know, those items where only BIU is, or to use them as our third-party inspector when 44 Borough itself is not able to fulfill those duties. You know what I'm saying?
I know exactly what you're saying. My only problem is I don't know Alan's exact certifications.
Okay, well, and that would be up to them, since Alan would be the one issuing the permits in the first place, he can then be the one to go, hey, you know, I'm not authorized to do this, I'm gonna have to call BIU, then they'll get their 70-30 split. You know, and this is also another incentive for us to, you know, continue to encourage Alan to get, you know, to get the additional, you know, to, you know, better, you know.
Get a certification.
That is how we would work this.
Okay, but it doesn't, this contract doesn't say that.
It's not spelled out.
At least I don't believe that it is. It just says,
Or do you, I think it's resolved. Do you have a problem with that?
No, not whatsoever.
Are they you?
no.
Okay, so,
How does the
amend your
contract
motion to reflect that? This is to be general, let's not specify what certs he has, let's just say, whatever Alan can perform, he will perform.
And 44 Borough will keep the full permit fee.
The one at 30%, right?
What's that? No. If it's something that, I mean,
That's what I'm saying.
I don't want-
They're not bored without the certification.
If it's plumbing, let's just say somebody takes out a permit to do plumbing. I mean, Alan can issue all the permits.
Right.
He can also inspect plumbing. So
Correct.
all the fees relative to that permit
Correct.
should come to 44.
Correct.
Not to 70-30.
Correct.
but
Okay.
I don't, this doesn't say that. Well, actually, there is no,
I think that was on the temporary.
That was on the
that's on the
It's not on the-
temporary. And actually, in the permanent one here, there is no, like I saw in some of the other ones, there was like a proposed, like resolution. There is no resolution for BIU.
We're not, let me address, all we're doing right now is to contract with them, we're not saying to authorize that contract. So, council gives Barbara the specifications of what the contract shall say. She'll contact VIU and says, we're agreeable to the costs and the terms here with this stipulation that Alan.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah, I'm fine with that. I'm fine
Is
with that.
there a life to this contract? Is there a term, I should say?
I had asked everyone to try and give us at least a 2 to 3 year contract based on what council wants to decide. You can put those parameters in and see if they would go back to any stipulation that you would want. I don't think that should be a big problem.
Okay.
So you amended your motions,
I amend my
you
motion.
amended your motion. Okay, any further questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Amend- Yes.
Before we move on, Rob was talking about
Ray and his son would like to talk about a generic sign that they'd like to put in the park.
Okay.
Instead of keeping them here all night, downstairs.
Is he in school tomorrow or something?
You want to have them talk about the sign that they'd like to do for the park?
Sure.
Generic terms?
Sure.
Hello, everyone. Here's my son, Chris. My son is a Life Scout, and for him to attain the rank of Eagle, he has to do a Eagle project. And we noticed that the sign in front of the 44 Park was deteriorating a little bit. So we want to know if we could get your blessing for him and the rest of his scouts to do his Eagle project, replace the sign.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Excellent.
I'll make a motion to give the, I'm sorry, Chris, what was your last name?
Arcolani.
Chris Arcolani, Life Scout with Troop 193, permission to replace the sign at the 44th Park.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Craig, second by Ms. Craig. Any question?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Thank you.
Okay, as long as we have your blessing, we'll start with our process, and we'll get designs to you guys, and you guys could more or less decide what kind of sign you want, kind of lettering, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
So we'll be in touch, and I mean, this is part of the process, so you guys have to start somewhere, right?
Yep.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
If you need a letter for the Eagle Board of Review, I'd be more than happy to prepare one for you.
Okay, great. Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Okay, thank you.
Good job.
Okay. Next, entertain a motion to accept the plans and specifications from Quad 3 and the fee agreement for services for the road resurfacing project that was approved at the last meeting.
So moved.
You have Mr. Camus?
Accept the plans and specs.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Craig, on the question. I know Carl left the plans here
Hey, how much is this fee?
last week.
How about letting the people here know how much it is, okay? We
So,
can do that?
I don't know if we took a chance to look at that, but that's what we're going with.
Mr. Chop, would you tell me how much that fee is and let everybody else know here how much the fee is? We're taxpayers.
Or do you have that number?
$78,240.
And I'm going to cover it as part of the grant,
That's
correct?
part of the 1.2 million.
It's included in the grant. Engineering fees are included in the grant.
Yes.
It's covered in the grant.
Okay. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Next, entertain a motion to accept the fee agreement for the solicitor and bond counsel for the road resurfacing project.
How much is that, sir?
Is there a motion?
So,
So Mr. Craig, second by Mr. Camus. Mr. Fairchild, what is the solicitor and bond counsel fee?
The interim is $5,000 plus $500 for expenses for advertising. Permanent, $5,000 plus $1,500 for expenses including advertising, which would be directed to the by the owner.
and that's a requirement of the grant,
That
correct?
is correct.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion passed. Open discussion. Or you want to discuss the renovations of what was done down at beginning of Virginia Terrace?
Okay. I had several meetings with the engineers and the street department to see if we could work out some sort of a temporary solution for Elizabeth Street and Virginia Terrace, where it's deteriorated to the point where all the water that flows from down at the end of Mr. Corl's property along Mr. Mertz's property. When the engineers were here They said they were trying to find some sort of solution, so we were out several times. And what we would like to do is take from where the two storm basins are, create a sloped speed bump effect. And what we'll do is we'll take probably about 3 to 4 feet of asphalt and contour that so that it comes up from flat surface, comes up a little bit, like as if you're going to have a speed bump, and then back down, so that it'll help the water to slow down, to go into the storm basins until at such time for the sewer rehabilitation project, we can add that into the work to be done next year. When I spoke to Mr. Mertz, he was thrilled. He is very, very happy. He feels that that will help tremendously. He's had over 10 feet of water in his basement, and when I contacted the engineers, I told them that our road crew can do that. They plan to try and do that maybe next week or the following week. We're looking to see about borrowing either a roller or renting one. And it's like $145 a day to rent one. I think they could probably do it in a day.
You don't need authorization from us, you have.
I raise a question, are we to pay that fee, or is Mr. Corral going to help out with that?
All right, public comment period is later, we're in the middle of the meeting.
I was addressing an agenda item.
Or recycling?
That's right.
As I said before, when I spoke to Ron Jeffrey, the recycling fees, once they hit a certain point, if we've exhausted every effort, if we have to go to the magistrate, that's something the council needs to decide how they want to do that, or if you want to send one more attempt to do a letter, or you want to hire a delinquent collector to do something further. I think that Mr. Chocchio had checked into that about 2 years ago,
Yeah,
and it was very expensive.
The collectors want about 30 to 33% of what we collected, and I just thought that wasn't.
I think that's a large amount of money as well.
So, the,
Do you have any idea how many delinquencies we're talking about?
Last time that I spoke with Mr. Jeffrey, I believe there were maybe around 25% that were delinquent, but he had sent out another letter and was going to try and get that back to me. Unfortunately, I haven't heard anything yet. So I can email council when I hear from him.
I think the ordinance allows for the taking it to the magistrate if necessary.
I
So,
think it,
I don't know why you would need council permission. I mean, unless council can come up with somebody else that can collect it at a better rate than 30 to 33%.
I think it does, Joe, but what we would have to do is put all the money up front first for the magistrate fees, and we don't know if we're going to get that.
Oh, that's what the issue is? Okay, so maybe we need that information prior to making a decision on that, so we need to know how much that's going to cost us.
Joe Danowski, 1621.
Sir, it's not time to speak.
It says open discussion
No,
here,
it's
sir.
open discussion for council. You had the opportunity to.
Well, it says recycling, and it says
Sir.
open discussion and recycling. It says the delinquent recycling fees.
Sir,
Now,
I'm not gonna tell
Mr.
you.
Jock,
You had the
Mr.
opportunity.
Jock, it says open discussion. I am a resident.
I'm asking you to sit down.
Now,
Mr.
and
Danowski,
that's
I'm
what I'm
asking
saying
you
to
to
you, isn't this the reason that it was put into our taxes? It was 15%
Mr. Danowski, I'm going to ask you to sit down, or I
It
will
was
have to ask you to leave.
15% delinquency, sir.
Mr.
When it
Danowski,
was
please
$55
have
fee.
decorum.
Now you're saying in the taxes it's
Obeying the
25%.
laws.
That's crazy.
Rules of order.
Yeah, it says open
Mr.
discussion,
Danowski,
sir.
you had the opportunity.
It says open
to
discussion
speak.
right here. What does that read on
Mr.
your
Danowski,
agenda? Does
please
it say
leave.
that, yes or no?
Please
sir?
take your seat or leave.
Does it say that, yes or no? It
Please
says
take
open
your seat or
discussion.
leave.
Well, why can't I discuss anything?
You had the opportunity. You'll have
I mean,
another
this was the
opportunity.
reason that that was put in our tax fees.
Officer Michaels, can you please escort the individual out of the room? He's allowed to come back and he's allowed to.
Speech, I don't know.
I mean, the thing is, that, you know, you might be violating my constitutional rights.
That's right,
Just so you know.
Sir, this isn't.
You might be violating my constitutional rights.
Mr.
Okay,
Danowski.
I'm just telling you, you might be violating my constitutional right. And if you are, the 44th borough will be sued. I'm telling you that now.
Time is shining.
I am telling you that now.
Okay, continuing along. Shade Tree Commission, you want to say that?
we received signs that we've posted for 18 years that we've had the Shade Tree Commission. The street department took care of that, and we received a flag. I know that we're going to have someone put that up. I don't know if it's going to be the fire department. I haven't been able to arrange that yet. Carol had asked me if there's any way that we can try and promote more with the Shade Tree Commission. Unfortunately, she wasn't able to be here this evening. I thought she would have had a little more to elaborate on that.
Okay. So it's our 18th year as Shade Tree City USA.
Tree City USA.
Tree City USA.
That's right, Tree City USA. Okay, the town hall meeting?
We were contacted by Steve Stahl, who is now a member of he's a federal agent for being able to present information to communities about the changes that are coming for October 1st. People call it the Obamacare. He wants to detail how that will be structured. It most likely is going to be based on income and the amount of people in your household. It's not anything promoting his company. He is here to give information that is going to be coming out for October 1st.
October 1st or January 1st?
January 1st, I'm sorry. He wanted to come October 9th or the 10th. I apologize, I was looking at October.
So he's looking to have a meeting in council chambers, I assume?
Yes, for the community, so that they're aware if they have questions.
He's not
It's
going to
not soliciting anything, it's just for information purposes.
Okay. Anybody have any issues with that? Do we have a motion to authorize the use of the room?
Make a motion to authorize. Who is the bar?
Steve Stahl.
Steve Stahl to own a informational town hall meeting. Community on, do they care the night of the 10th?
It was up to council. They were his available
On
dates.
October 9th at 7:30 p.m.
I think he asked if it could be 6:30.
6:30 p.m.
Because he travels a little.
Okay, there's a motion. Second by Ms. Martinelli, the question.
Will it be your responsibility to advertise that, or does it
No.
have?
We can either just, put it in the community news, and anyone that, if we can put a flyer, on all of our doors, passing word as much as we can. It's just an information.
Also sign downstairs.
We can post it. No cost for advertising.
Okay, we have vote on that. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed. Volunteer firefighter wages?
I just wanted to talk about that briefly because the way that things were done in the past, there was a stipend for that at $5.50 an hour. And I just received wages that they're going to revise to provide all the way back to October of 2012. So we want everybody on the payroll, and I spoke to them about having a 1099 form. If they had to do a W-2 form and have the taxes withheld, that would cut down on the $5.50 an hour. They had asked if we would be willing to increase that to $7.25, and that's a decision the council would have to make, but I don't think that there's nothing in our budget for that. I think that the $5.50 stipend was set that way. I think that's something you need to look at for your budget purposes for January, if there will be any type of increase, and maybe.
Yeah, I think.
It's state law. It's a $5.50 stipend or minimum wage, whichever we want to.
No, when I spoke to Chief Shedlarski, he didn't present that to me that way. He just said that the stipend has been $5.50.
Well,
It's been that for.
well, no, I can,
years ago.
no.
I think there was an increase that you had given them.
We gave them about
$5.50.
3 years ago, maybe 4. We went from 4 to 550. And at that time, they didn't want to be part of our payroll. They rather the 550 an hour and no payroll.
Well, that's not allowed anymore.
Okay, so that was my question. So we have to look at the impact, our budget, because
That's why everyone will get a 1099.
because it's not just wages that we have to worry about Social Security and all those taxes that we have to
That's why
contribute.
they will get an independent contractor 1099 form for this year.
So they'll be responsible for
They
their
are
own taxes.
responsible
So that's something that we need to have a budget impact before we can make a full decision.
for January, yes. I think it should remain at the $5.50 that they're being paid, and them to come as a 1099.
Essentially, it isn't a budget, but it's just a different line.
Yes, it's in the budget, but there's nothing in the budget for any increase, because if they wanted to have the increase, that's where they would compensate for the amount of taxes, basically. If you're getting $7.25 an hour, take home is gonna be about $5.
Okay. That's something we can contemplate for the
budget.
2014. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to pay the bills as presented.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Craig.
Second.
Wait a second, let's skip past residents and taxpayers' comments.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yes.
I'm sorry, who made that motion? I'm sorry, for the bills. Dottie? And the second was?
I'll get you.
I have a question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Karen.
Under 402, administrative expenses, solicitor salaries and fees, the legal services, $1,325. What is that for?
The bill is on the table. Under administration. What's it for?
That's for the investigation?
That was from Attorney Falcone.
That was separate.
No, that's separate.
It's for, there's several different bills, or it's broken out here. Karen, there's, do you want me to just read you the bill since you can't see it?
Yeah, I was just curious what that's for.
Okay. There are 7 items. The first item is with regard to 180, 190 Wells, the 44 Borough Zoning Hearing Board and the Borough of 44 receipt and review of notice of zoning appeal, including correspondence to zoning board and solicitor, preparation, filing of notion of intervention along with certificate of service, receipt and review of correspondence for discontinuance filed by 180, 190 Wells Street.
Oh, is the zoning different from what Sam does?
Yes, but if you remember, we filed what he says, a certificate of service or an appeal, because they appealed. What happened is they appealed it, the zoning hearing board's decision to
Oh, okay,
the
gotcha.
court,
I
and we entered our appearance to
Yeah, no, I
challenge it.
understand. I got
Okay.
it. I wasn't sure.
That was $175.
Yeah, no, I understand now.
Okay. Do you want me to continue with the rest of the bills, the rest of the line items?
Yeah.
On this legal bill?
Do you want to keep going?
Oh, no, I get it. I mean, I wasn't sure what that was about.
Okay.
I get it. I understand it.
Okay. All right. Any other questions on the bills? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed.
Mr. Chairman, this second again, I'm sorry. I didn't-
I have Dottie, and then I didn't know who said it.
Karen.
Karen did.
All right. Residents and taxpayers' comments and petitions for general purposes.
Joe Denowski, 1621 Wyoming Ave. You won't let me speak before on this, but delinquent collections for recycling. Now, when it was brought up before, there was a $55 fee for every resident. It was, oh, okay, we're going to eliminate that because we have 15% delinquency. Now, that's put in taxes, and it's not fair to everybody because everybody's property is assessed at different values, which I brought up, which nobody got in the first place, because if somebody's house is valued at $200,000, they're paying $100. If somebody's house is valued at $50,000, they're paying $25. So, it was brought up, oh, we'll take this and we'll put this in the taxes. Now, Barbara's saying that the tax delinquency rate here basically is 25%. Well,
For prior years.
first of all, it was the mayor's job before, when it was 15%, to do something about it because he was supposed to enforce the ordinances. And that's one of his first duties. If you look at the duties of the mayor, it lists that right in the second sentence. His first duty is to keep order. His second duty is to enforce ordinances. Now, that wasn't done before, but now you want to get magistrates involved and pay magistrates for this. Well, that's what our police force was supposed to do, because the mayor is in charge of the police force. But evidently, you just want to waste taxpayer money, because it doesn't make sense with now it being in taxes at 25 and at 25% delinquency rate, and before when it was $55, you had a 15% delinquency rate. So which makes more sense? Can any of you answer me that? Any person on council here, can you answer me that?
I think what he's referencing is the delinquencies from last year before we included it in the taxes for this year.
Well, see, that's the mayor's job, because it was an ordinance before that. The mayor is supposed to enforce the ordinances
But
of the borough.
saying that's civil, correct?
It is a civil.
Which taxes we mismanaged.
The mayor is supposed to enforce every ordinance in the borough. Look at the every duties.
Okay, but the law doesn't
In the
allow us to enforce
Pennsylvania Borough Code, if you look in there, you go online, you look in there, and you look to see the mayoral duties.
I
Its
understand.
first two duties
But
are,
this is-
first is to keep order, the second is to enforce
This
ordinances.
is a civil process.
It's
It's not criminal.
Understandable, but it's enforce ordinances. It doesn't specify, oh, only police ordinances.
No,
It
but-
specifies
but the
every
law-
ordinance of the borough of 44, sir. That's what it
The law
specifies.
specifies what
That's-
I can enforce.
What I'm saying is,
The law specifies
it's
what
his
I can
job to enforce, it's the mayor's job to enforce the ordinances.
The only civil law that I can enforce are PFA violations.
Well, put it this way, as far as if somebody saw a police officer maybe going to their home, knocked at the door, say, hey, you know, you didn't pay your recycling
But the
fee.
problem is.
You didn't pay your recycling, all you're saying is, you didn't pay your recycling fee. Well, maybe they would get it then, and maybe they would pay the recycling fee.
We don't have the authority to do that.
The mayor does.
Anybody else?
Yes. Ron Swabak, 15 Susquehanna Avenue, 44. I guess I would like to bring up the fact that Mr. Cavus addressed and said that he pulled permits and he has a working relationship with the zoning and building inspectors, so.
I never said I had that, so don't put words in my
Well,
mouth.
you said you pulled the permit for the house on Lyman Avenue. But I guess my question back to you is, since you have an open and working relationship, somewhat depend on these people to make sure that permits are issued, is it right for you to vote to approve a third-party inspector in this town when you have a working relationship with them?
Absolutely.
You don't think you should recuse
No.
yourself?
No, I do not.
All right, I want to ask that question. Second of all, just so you think I'm not picking on Rick Camus.
No, it's
okay?
harassment.
Here's a permit, and this is a right-to-know request for Miracles Properties for the same exact thing.
Okay.
And I'd like to read on the bottom of this card, this is a building permit from 44. And you said you pulled the permits, and you're well aware of this, and you worked on the job for many weeks. This card must be displayed in an area of the project that is clearly visible from the street at all times.
Okay.
Right, so you...
What's your point?
So my
Do you
point is,
have a
if you
point?
pulled the permit, then it should be in the window for multiple weeks while you were working there.
Okay, so what if a permit falls out of the window because the family has a very large dog? Is that my fault, sir?
Sir,
Is that my fault? What happens when I
You pulled
leave?
the permit, you know the law.
You filed the right to
You
know
walked in and
request,
out
was the
there, you
permit
don't
full?
see the permits.
Were the
there.
inspections done?
You know what, at
Don't
this
sit
point,
here and
I'm not
harass me.
you're not gonna be clear. But the law is
Don't
the law,
harass me.
and it is what it says.
And it's
Thank
my
you.
fault? Sir, I would like to file the complaint
I
that
wasn't
you're down there building a
working on
masonry
my
fence
end.
at 1609 Wyoming Avenue
Right ahead.
without a zoning permit.
Go right ahead. Be my guest. Not my property.
Joe Danowski, 1621 Wyoming Avenue. We brought up before, as far as with Alan, well, he doesn't have all the qualifications and whatever. Now, it's my understanding that 44 is supposed to pay for his education. Shouldn't he have had this education before he was appointed to it, or not? Because when I asked if all the qualifications were there, I was told that Barbara recommended them. Well, you could recommend Joe Schmo or whatever, but if he doesn't have the qualifications, he can't do the job. So why are you paying somebody that you're going to have to pay to go to school? Does that make sense? I mean, I don't get where your heads are at when you vote on this stuff. I really don't. The thing is, the man is not qualified because he doesn't have all the education for this. Now, 44 Borough paid for the education of the last one that resigned. I don't really think we got our money's worth. Pardon me, but if I walk into some place or whatever and I'm doing a plumbing job, I better know what I'm doing. Not, oh, wait a minute, I'm gonna have to get somebody who knows something here, and, well, you're gonna have to pay them too. Because basically, that's what you're doing. So, I mean, Don't you get this yet or what? I mean, really, you should know this. If you put it this way, you walk into somebody's house not knowing your job and you gotta call another contractor in? I don't think so. I mean, think about this stuff first. Mr. Chalk, you can look up in the air all you want because evidently you don't know a lot about this stuff either.
Cheryl Dayhout, 398 River Street, Fort Worth.
Sorry, I didn't catch your name.
Cheryl Dayhout, D-E-H-A-U-T, 398 River Street. First of all, may I commend you for the job that you do. It's not always easy being public service, and I thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
I just had one comment and I have a question. So my question is, and I apologize for my ignorance. So how does a person get background information on the agenda items so that?
I don't know exactly what your question is. We typically have a work session 2 weeks prior to our council meeting where we try to discuss most of the items that will be on the next agenda and future items. So that's the best place to get the information, what's going to come on the next
Is to
council
come to
meeting.
the working session?
Yes.
Okay, well, I just wondered because you're asking us for comments about agenda items before the agenda items are being discussed.
Well,
So
right.
that's why I'm wondering, how do I inform myself about those agenda items?
And some ordinance, like we voted on an ordinance tonight, and we're legally required to advertise that a minimum of 7 days before we vote on it. So last Sunday, the ordinance that we voted on
Would be in the
tonight
paper.
was in the legal section newspaper.
Okay.
So you can periodically check, you could check the legal section for ordinances that we're voting on or anything that would have to require legal advertising.
And Barbara does a great job, and I mentioned it to her. I don't think I could do
And I think
what she
Barbara
has
has
to do.
open communication. If you want to know if something's being addressed or what's going to be on the next agenda, you can probably give Barbara an email or a call, and she'll probably
Try and
tell
help
you.
everybody.
Well,
So-
just something maybe to consider, and I haven't looked at our website in a while, is it possible to have certain things put on the website so that the constituents can become informed, and then therefore they can ask the question, because we have to ask the question before the agenda item. So if we kind of, because a lot of times, and I've served on numerous boards, it's hard to ask a question if you're not specific about the details, so I'd be happy to educate myself about those if I knew where to get it, so thank you. And one comment, and I don't want to be irreverent to the Reverend, is he, and I'm always late for the meeting, sorry about that, but I have a Kiwanis meeting before this meeting, so things get a little jammed up. Is he always the person who does the invocation?
Usually,
Okay.
only all denominations that are represented in 44 have the open invitation. They're actually supposed to rotate, all
Okay.
churches.
My only comment, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
He's the only one who shows up. He's the only one who shows up.
My only comment is, and I'm a practicing Christian, but I can imagine that all of our residents are, and typically in a non-denominational setting, and I believe in doing the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance for sure, perhaps Lord and Christ perhaps aren't the best words for a invocation of a public speech. So I just thought I would mention that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address this tonight?
I disagree. I believe that Lord and Christ should be addressed in prosecuting Christian themselves.
Do you want to give us your name and address for the record?
My name is Cliff Hopkins. I just moved here to a beautiful city on Easter weekend.
Thank you.
Over on 23 Center Street.
Welcome.
I love this city. It's beautiful and sorry about interrupting.
No, you want to come to the podium, because I know you wrote down you want to
Oh, sure.
talk to us?
Yes, sir. Hoskins, H-O-S-K-I-N-S,
And your address?
23 Center Street.
Thank you.
Okay, council members, I've taken up a hobby of metal detecting. And I know that there's a lot of people out there that are what we call nighthawks, and I only know this through looking into this. I've been looking into a lot of this in the past few months because I've had months to look into it. I lost my job at the coal mine. I want to do it right. I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I definitely don't want to do anything illegal. I came here to find out if there was any protocol, if there was anywhere to like if there are streets, parks, or recreation, or trails, or soccer fields, baseball fields, anything of that nature, that would or would not be off limits. And I also went over to the National Historical Society on recommendation from Ms. Fairchild, which was very good, because I got some useful information there, but basically everything led me back here.
Yeah. I don't think we have anything against it.
I know I've seen people down at the park, metal detectors digging up and finding stuff.
I mean, Chief, Adam, do you have any thoughts? If you saw something metal detected, you probably wouldn't.
The only comment I had would be if there was any, damage done to the property that would be repaired. If grass was dug up, it'd be placed down, and, if there's any damage, we would take care of it, so.
No, are you talking about like, is that borough owned or like the parks?
The parks.
And
It's
baseball
just the
fields?
park.
Just the parks?
Right, the rec fields that belongs to Luzerne County.
Okay. I did look on Luzerne County, the website for this, and there's nothing on there.
They're managed by a group called the Whitewater
Challengers?
or something like that?
Whitewater Challengers?
Yes.
All right.
Those fields are managed, they're owned by Luzerne County, except for a small sliver that's owned by us, we have rights to. But they're managed by Whitewater Challengers, which they're down, I think, in the Cunningham areas where their main office is. But if you contact them, they could probably tell you.
His first name is Ken, I just can't think of his
Ken.
last name right now.
I can't remember. Ken White. Ken White.
All right, and the only reason why I ask is I got nieces and nephews that are haunting me to take them, and I don't want to do anything wrong.
Yeah, I think if you contact him.
If you're fearful that it might be private property, not in the board is close by, and that's going to be their property, overall property, and they can probably answer that for you.
Okay. All right, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Thanks.
Yeah, I got much left at the park, but like I said, I've already seen people. Yeah.
Well, you never know.
Yeah.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome to 44.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address council tonight? Okay, we are going to go into an executive session, discuss personnel matters that may or may not result in discipline, a contract negotiation, and is there anything else, Barbara?
Part-time police officer.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. And the police department, we'll say, we'll call it that. Anything else? Okay, so we're going to adjourn ourselves to executive session for those purposes.
I'm Cheryl.
Oh, yeah.
About 9 years. Watch that chair.
This is my husband, Jeff. Take care. Good night, officer.
Have a good one.
See you, Jeff.
I think that's a valid question. I know